What's up, guys? There's tons of different guards in jiu-jitsu. Butterfly guard is one of the best, and it's personally my favorite. So today, I'm going to be giving you an introduction to some very good sweeps from that position. So real quick, before we go into actual techniques, I'm just going to talk about a few things real quick. Okay, initially, our posture. Okay, we want to have a situation where our shoulders are very far in front of our hips. This is going to make it more difficult for him to start pushing us backwards. If we're in a situation like so, where our shoulders are above our hips or behind, it's going to be very easy for us to get put into a supine position. So we always want to sit forward like so. We always also want to try and keep our elbows tucked in tight. This is going to make it hard for him to start digging in to body locks, things like that. I am going to go over situations where our opponent gets in, but initially, when we first approach him, we want to have elbows in tight and shoulders in front of hips. Another key concept is you always want to play between pushing and pulling. Okay, if I just try and use one or the other force, it's going to be very difficult to get breakthroughs on good opponents. So the first one we're going to go into is sumi gaeshis. Okay, this is using pulling forces, specifically the shoulder crunch sumi gaeshi, so a situation where we can get our arms underneath his. So the first thing we're going to look to do is just simply get a 2-on-1. We can be, proactive with this or reactive, our opponent gripping the collar tie, posting on the shoulder. Doesn't really matter too much, okay? From here, we're just going to look to get a 2-on-1. It could be double wrist or wrist and elbow. Again, doesn't matter. Now we're going to look to start elevating overhead. To do this, we want to start sliding our hips in. If I just try and lean back and pull and he sits his way back, it's going to be kind of difficult. So we dig our heels into the mat, we guide that hand above our shoulder, and from here, we scoot our hips in nice and close. Now, I'm going to start leaning back. I'm going to elevate him overhead. Now, from here, we're going to shoot our arm underneath. We need to hit a forward shift. Okay, if I just try and grip from here, he's going to pummel elbow inside, and we're going to lose it. But when we forward shift, if we go straight, we run into the same problem of elbow coming in. So when we do it, we really want to make sure we do it at a slight angle. So from here, my forward shift is going to be out in this direction, and at the same time, I'm going to come back to a seated position, and I'm going to look to get my elbow high over the shoulder. My elbow's low, again, elbow slips inside. From here, I'm going to be actively kind of rotating my arms around the corner. This is going to put weight on his secondary hand and make it difficult for him to bring his head up. So we make sure that we keep that elbow high, we lock our hands wrist to wrist, and we keep weight on that hand. Now we're going to look to hit a second elevation. So once again, we're going to start kind of scooting our hips through and underneath. We're going to start elevating. Now most of the time, you're going to get people who start to 4-point up and base out. From here, I'm just going to continue with the elevation towards my left hand side. So my right butterfly hook is going to start to elevate. And this is going to force him to start hopping with that leg to keep his base. This is going to make enough room for me to start bringing my left leg through and posting my foot anywhere on his thigh. Now from here, we're just going to look to start kicking his leg out. At the same time, my right arm's going to elevate underneath his chin. And then from here, we're going to sit him down and climb up into this top position. If you guys are enjoying this technique, know that I'm available for seminars. I can come to your gym in person and show you guys some good stuff. You guys can just shoot me an email to this address and we'll get back to you and set something up. So in the previous one, we got into a situation where we were able to elevate our opponent and dig underneath his arm into underhook situations. Sometimes that's going to be fairly difficult, okay, especially when you have an opponent who's kind of playing super cagey and just waiting for his opportunity. So a very common thing I like to do is I'll actually bait body locks. Okay, so I'll actually take my elbows away and I'll let him start to engage with me. Okay, this is just good to get a connection against an opponent who's kind of stalling and just disengaging. So from here, I'll take my elbows away and I'll let him start trying to shoot into his body locks. From here, he's going to get his hands locked up. Now, what I want to prevent is him getting a long arm and a short arm, okay? Now this is going to be kind of difficult to start elevating him, and he can use this elbow for base. So even if I do start elevating him, again, that elbow is going to be able to base out and make it difficult. So once he gets hands locked, what I want to do is I want to take 2 overhooks like so. I want to connect my hands, and I want to pull my elbow in, okay? So now he doesn't have that long arm, short arm, okay? And he can't use that elbow for base. From here, I'm going to connect my chin towards the top of his head. I'm going to start leaning towards my left hand side, and at the same time, I'm just going to start kind of tucking my left leg in. Now from here, our left leg is going to be used as a drive leg, and from here we're going to start elevating with our right foot. Most of the time they're going to start 4-pointing up. So I start elevating, exactly, he starts to 4-point. Now from here, this is why we need this left leg folded in as a drive leg. I base my toes on the mat and I start to drive off of my left leg, which is going to help elevate my hips. And then from here we can slide up into this 3/4 mount and secure top position. So now you guys have seen 2 uses of pulling forces, okay, through elevations and sumi gaeshis. Now I'm going to go over one way that I like to use pushing forces, okay. Most of the time pushing forces are going to be wrestling up, okay. That's where I'm level changing up and either, attacking my opponent's legs, or if he's on his knees we can heist up and start to go into front heads, things like that. So for this one, we're going to go into a dummy sweep, into a wrestle-up. So most of the time when your opponents approach you, they're going to be in a sort of bent over, staggered stance like so. What we're going to look to do is we're going to look to start getting 2-on-1s on the same side as his rear leg. We want to try and draw him into a square stance. So from here, our opponent's going to have his hands out. From here, I'm going to look to start taking a cross grip with my left arm, and my right arm's going to start to come up towards his elbow. Now from here, I'm going to kind of lean back, and as I lean back, I'm going to give a strong pull with my arms, and this is going to start to draw that rear leg towards me. Now from here, we're going to look to start scooting in. I'm going to clip behind both of his ankles, and at the same time, I'm going to start switching to pushing grips on his knees. Now, if your opponent's, fairly new, not that athletic, sometimes, or a lot of the times, you can get them to actually go down to their butt and just take top position. As you go against better opponents, you're just going to get a situation where your opponent steps a leg back, and then from there, we need to kind of chain it together. So we've got our 2-on-1, we've drawn that rear leg in, we scoot in, we clip his ankles, we push on the knees, and we see he steps back. From here, my left hand's going to switch to a grip behind the knee. I'm going to fold my left leg in. From here, I'm going to start to build up towards my left knee. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to start going into like a GSP double, where one arm's elbow deep, the other arm's around the hip. I'm going to drive my right knee through to the mat. From here, I'm going to pick my left leg up, and I'm going to take this hook on the outside, where now we can just continue driving through, sit our partner down, and gain top position. So now that you guys have seen some examples of both pushing and pulling forces, I want to make sure that you guys know it's important that you play between the two, okay? If you just try and use pulling or just try and use pushing, it's going to be very, very difficult to break through against good opponents. So I'll just kind of quickly show you some examples, right? So if we have an opponent on 2 knees, okay, from here, let's say, he's being cagey, I'm trying to pull, he's sitting his weight back. Okay, rather than just sticking with pulling forces, I can start coming up and going into pushing forces. Now, if he doesn't push back into me, I'm just going to take him over. So he's going to start to push back, and then once again, we can go back into our pulling forces, and it's going to help open up these opportunities. So again, it's very important to make sure you play between both pushing and pulling, and don't just stick to one. So now today, we mainly went over sweeps, but know that there's still a ton of other opportunities, right? So for example, we're trying to pull him, he's sitting back, we go into pushing, he starts to push back. We can also snap into front headlock situations and start going into submissions. Okay, there's also situations where we can start going into arm drags, chasing the back. So know that there's a ton of different opportunities. It's just that today we were mainly going over sweeps and gaining top position. So that's going to be it for sweeps from butterfly guard. If you guys like those techniques, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what position you'd like me to cover next. If you want to see more of this, you guys can also head over to our submeta. We have live Q&As, full round breakdowns. You got myself, Ethan, and Nicky on there. So make sure you guys check that out. Also, check out our merch shop. We got tons of new stuff on there, and it sells out quick. So make sure you head over there and get yours before it's gone. And yeah, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed.